Hello, my name is Tiffany Delzeeth, and today I'm going to be talking about classrooms for children. It's basically about how nature can help students while in classrooms and how clocks can be distracting while in classrooms. I think kids need more time outside when they're in school. A large meta-analysis of dozens of studies concluded that physical activity in school-age children 4 to 18 increased performance in a trove of brain matter, perceptual skills, IQ, verbal ability, mathematic ability, academic readiness. Researchers at Pennsylvania State have found that early social skills matter more than academic ones in predicting future success. I think honestly that is true. I think, getting kids outside and having those social skills is better than having kids sit in classroom and just learn more and more information. I think if kids are outside, they can learn more than staying in a classroom base. Preschoolers in the United States average about just 48 minutes of exercise a day in their school, even though the recommended level is 2 hours. Of those 48 minutes, only 33 is outside. A 2009 study of pediatrics found that 30% of third graders get fewer than 15 minutes of recess a day. Another study found that 39% of African American students have no recess compared to 15% of white students. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And now even kids get fewer time outside, especially with COVID. That's even if they are outside. I was talking to Miss Olivia, who I will be interviewing, or who you'll be hearing from later in this video. She was telling me how now with COVID they get even less time outside because of COVID. They're making sure these kids aren't, interacting with another classroom because that's how COVID gets spread around. So these kids are getting less time outside than they were previously. Preschoolers are the fastest growing market for antidepressants in the United States. More than 10,000 American preschoolers are being medicated for ADHD. Teenagers today have 5 to 8 times more clinically significant scores for anxiety and depression compared to young people born in the 1950s. Since 1999, U.S. suicide rate has increased for nearly all groups, with the steepest rise 200% among girls 10 to 14 years old. I think that's crazy. Kids with ADHD medication, it's not helping. In the book that we've read, the Nature Fix, it was talking about how these kids that were on ADHD medication, but they went to this program where it was basically outside and was only during the summer. These kids, either their dose got lowered or, they're not taken off it completely, but, they were much happier being outside than in classroom all day. A lot of these parents were pulling their kids because these kids weren't focusing at school. A study of 2,000 children in Barcelona found that those who spend more time playing in green spaces are recorded by parents to have somewhat milder symptoms of intention and hyperactivity. My friend's kid, who is about to go into school, he actually starts Thursday. She's nervous that he's not going to be able to focus because of how hyperactive he is. She's afraid that, he's not going to learn anything while in classrooms. And she just hopes that, he can, because that's what every parent wants, is that they want their kids to learn. I think kids need to be more outside. That's how kids learn. I wouldn't say learn quicker, but there's been studies where kids are more receiving the information while outside and doing games and all that. The U.S. study of disease control and prevention, nearly 1 in 10 children have a vitamin D deficiency. That's 7.6 million children. Two-thirds, another 50.8 million, are considered vitamin D insufficient. We need sunlight for all sorts of bodily processing, for regarding our sleep and rhythms, to facilitating proper bone growth, to producing sorry, boosting rickets, a disease caused by lack of vitamin D, which had been virtually gotten rid of, has become to shown up in pockets of the UK and American. The incidence had quadrupled in those two countries since the last 15 years. A school called Archelone in Scotland, these kids were running around happily climbing trees, playing house and twig teepees, and even hosting a funeral for a dead frog. For snack time, a 4-year-old boy helped light a campfire for making popcorn. Preschoolers are handling knives and challenging themselves physically. A large tree fell over during a storm. The children spent days sawing and pounding off sharp bits to make it safer to climb upon. The kids improved their manual dexterity, learning about cause and effect and practicing teamwork. I honestly think kids need to learn that way. I think at a young age, kids should learn how to handle a lighter or knives. You see all these horror stories in the news about these kids accidentally shooting someone with a gun or stabbing someone with a knife because they have not learned at a young age. We need to make our place safer for kids. People will leave out their guns. Keep it locked away because kids don't know. Or if you are going to leave it out, teach your kids about the safety of it. A lighter, you don't want them to burn themselves, so I would teach them how to use a lighter. It's better for you to teach them instead of them just figuring it out and having an accident and you having to go to the hospital because they have second or third degree burns on their bodies. And handling knives, kids like to learn, and handling a knife would be better for them instead of, you are cooking dinner and you walk away for 1 second and there's a knife out and they grab it by the blade and they cut themselves and you're ending up in the hospital because they need stitches or they need to glue the skin back together. It's dangerous, but if these kids learn at a young age, it would be better for them in the end. A tenth of preschoolers in Scandinavia spend nearly their entire days outside. Another huge percentage spends a significant portion outdoors. In Finland, outdoor play is into the day throughout primary school to an astonishing degree. It's common for students to be tuned out for 15 minutes out of every hour. I think that would be great. Just having, kids sitting in classrooms, take them outside for, that hour or 50 minutes. Have them play a game outside. During the winter months, you really can't do that. But still, even if you make a game while in the classroom, I think kids would be more perspective of learning more. They would find it more enjoyable to be at school while playing games or have fun while learning instead of just sitting in a classroom taking tests and all that. School won't even let children outside when it's raining or snowing, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I understand, that these schools don't want to, have the janitor clean up the snow or mud that these kids are tracking in, but they could have, their boots, winter or snow or rain boots, next to the front door, so then you only have to clean that main area, or having them take it off and putting them in their lockers once they're done. Do that instead if you don't want to leave all these kids' boots out and then one of them going missing because someone took them. It would be better doing it that way instead of having these kids stay inside all day. Spending too much time on their phones instead of learning and being outside. I understand now, kids are getting iPhones younger and younger. We need to, teachers and parents need to learn how to work with phones now instead of, saying that they're not there entirely. They're always going to be around now. We just need to learn how to get kids to be off their phone, instead of being on it, either having it locked up in their lockers or having a bin saying like no cell phones, doing something along those lines. And parents are even saying that they were outside more when they were kids than them being parents and letting their kids outside. The crime rate has gone down. So, these parents are still, I want to say, trying to keep their kids indoors, and this is not helping. These kids need to be outside. They need to have play and have social skills with other children instead of them growing up and being selfish most days. You always see kids that were an only child, be more on their own instead of learning to play with other kids and all that. A clock can be a distraction. Clocks, students are staring at the clock instead of paying attention to their lesson. I was one of those kids where I was constantly staring at the clock. Okay, when's lunch? Okay, when's this class over? Okay, when is school over? And some kids are still doing that today. They're worrying about how much longer class is than actually learning the lesson. And can clocks stress students out while taking an exam or test? All of us had to take that high school exam, the Ohio educational test, in order to graduate high school. I did not do so well in the reading and writing because we were timed. I was trying to read the story to the questions in, as fast as I could, and I could not. When they said we had 10 minutes left, I was just circling answers at that point, hoping I would pass. So I think it could hurt students that need more time to read or to write or to actually understand the question. And then, can teachers tell if there's a difference in tests between students worried about time and when students aren't? I did not see a study on this. I think we should, to see, how well students are doing if they're worried about time and if they aren't worried about time. In the end, this could help teachers learn a way to help students, not get so distracted about time. Changes that can be made. I think children should have an hour a day of recess outside. Even high school students, they need some time outside. Growing up in my high school, we didn't have, tables outside where students can eat. It was all inside. We were inside 24/7. The only time we were is if you took gym. You didn't have to take gym. So, every once in a blue moon, you would get class time outside. I think maybe once a year I got class time outside. It's hard, with living in Ohio, you have those winters, but still you have that time, September, October, even November, it's still nice outside. You could go outside, and I know during the springtime, there's rain, but some of those days you get really nice days. Take your students outside, and just make a game out of it. I also think removing clocks from classrooms would help tremendously. Just taking those clocks out, and then if you have the projector, make sure that the time is not shown on there, because these kids are just staring at the clock hoping class is over sooner. Instead of having time tests, let students take as much time as they need. Why do we have to have these time tests? It never made sense to me. And, during the test, like at the beginning, these teachers are saying, oh, well, if you need time here, you can go outside, going down to the office and take it there. And, these kids get embarrassed but in front of their other students or their other classmates because, they're being pulled out of the classroom because they need more time, unlike their fellow classmates. I was one of those where I needed more time, but I never asked for it because I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to feel like an outcast. Teachers need to see the results of students when they're outside in nature and when they're stuck in a classroom all day. I think that would help tremendously. Seeing how better test scores are when they are outside in nature and learning and having fun instead of being in a classroom all day. Some students even say their class feels, like they're stuck in jail. They're not behind bars, but it feels like they're just stuck. They're just sitting there and they're getting this information, but they're not remembering it in the end. And during the winter months, I would say use the gym. I know there's gym class, but, just having these kids go out and using half the gym. You don't even have to use the whole gym. Just learn in that and come up with simple games for kids while learning. Like doing math games. When they're reading a story and you make up a game to remember questions, it makes children learn so much quicker. And parents need to be more relaxed about letting their kids outside and play like when they were kids. The crime rate has gone down, but, parents are still afraid, with child abductions, and I understand that completely. I do. I'm not a mother, but I do understand about child abductions and how it can be scary, but, these parents can sit outside with our kids and instead, they feel like they don't have time to because they gotta clean the house, they gotta do laundry, they gotta do this. And I understand that, but these kids need to get outside. They need to have those motor skills and they need to have those social skills with other kids and they need to not have that vitamin D deficiency because we're keeping them indoors 24/7. I'm going to play this interview that I did with Miss Olivia Alton.
Hi, my name is Tiffany, and I am currently here with Olivia, who teaches second grade. Okay, she teaches second grade. We're going to ask you a couple questions with your students. The first question I'm going to ask you is, how long do your students get outside in a day?
I spoiled myself today.
So typically they have two 15-minute blocks for recess. So they're outside typically for 30 minutes a day. And then they are given two 30-minute blocks during the week for gym. Typically they go outside for gym, but during the winter and all of that, they're inside. So in the spring and summer, warmer months, it's typically, 30 minutes, possibly an hour a day.
Do you know if any of your students are on ADHD medication?
So the schools are required to notify you if a student is on any type of medication, whether it's taken at home or at school. Typically, a student on ADHD medication is put on a 504 plan, which is accommodations that the teacher has to implement for that student. So whether it be longer testing time, just because they need to get up and go walk down the hallway or go to the gym with another teacher for a little bit. But typically, if a student is on ADHD medication, they are given specific accommodations. So yes, as a teacher, you are typically required to know if your students are on medication.
And do you currently have a clock in your classroom?
I do. It is not directly in front of where the kids are looking at the board. It is off to the side, so it's not something that they constantly have to look at while I'm teaching.
Did you know that clocks can stress students out when they are timed during tests or exams?
Yes, that's actually one thing that is, I don't want to say drilled to teachers, but it's often talked about if you take down the class during testing, just so students aren't constantly looking at it. But also, I'll add this thing. When one student finishes and they see that another friend close their laptop or like put their pencil away or something, the other students try to rush. So it's also the class, but it's also the peers around them. So it's difficult for them not to rush during events.
And do any of your students currently have an iPad or e-textbooks or any of that?
In the classroom setting, they only have Chromebooks, but at home, I know majority of them have either iPads or phones and technology.
All right, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Tiffany, and I am currently here.
You know, learning from that, the feedback, like she said, even though she'll take down the class, kids feel like they're in competition. So we, as parents, you know, we teach kids that it's okay to be competitive. But, you know, at this point, I think, you know, teaching them that at a young age, it's okay to be competitive. But to be competitive during class, you know, kids are just circling answers instead of physically answering actually answering the questions and getting them right. It could potentially hurt them. They're getting worse scores because they feel like they're in competition with other students. And then when teachers are told that they aren't ADHD medication, you know, it feels like these kids are outcasts. So, you know, these teachers know that, you know, they need more help than other students instead of, you know, treating them like they're just a normal students. And if teachers weren't told that that the students were on ADHD medication, would they have known? Would they know that those bursts of, you know, but bursts of excitement or something like that, would they have known that, you know, it's because of that? And then, you know, I was talking to Miss Olivia and she even said, you know, even if it's cold outside or it's rainy, the kids still want to play outside. They don't care. They want to go outside. You know, kids love outside, but during school, you know, they can't. And like I said in the beginning of this, you know, the schools don't want them outside because they don't want to have the janitor clean up their mess, which I understand. And hiding the clocks, you know, won't really do anything now because the kids have phones. Like I said, you know, getting a box and putting their phones in could help. Hiding the clock, and when you have the projector, hiding the time. So these kids aren't, you know, adding down the time until class is over with or when school's over with. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope this helps everyone, and I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.